the next episode of the Badass series. I'm Edna Valentino, and today we've got an awesome friend, a businesswoman like no other. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's got a strong faith, she's super, super successful, and I'm going to read her bio in just a second, but Toi Sweeney is my guest. Girl, look
Hi.
at you right now. Oh my God.
Hello. How
Look
are
at
you?
that lip. I love it. I think it's
You gotta have
fantastic.
your power lip. You gotta have your power lip present.
We got a tip already, you guys. It hasn't even been 60 seconds in. I hope we're going to get more tips for you because this is not my forte, fashion. And let me go back. So let me read you Toi's background, just a little bit of her bio. Okay. You can find her at toysweeney.com. Toi is an award-winning fashion stylist, brand image strategist, speaker, entrepreneur, author of Secrets of a Well-Dressed Brand, founder of the Well-Dressed Brand, and host of Well-Dressed Brand TV. Toi helps powerhouse brands and high performers integrate their wardrobes. Listen to this. This is so cool. Integrate their wardrobes into their business plans through a stunning, distinctive style that clearly communicates their highest value. I want to stick you in my back pocket, Toi. She's passionate about leveraging her fascination advantage training, which we'll hear about, and the psychology of color. You guys know I love human behavior and psychology and what makes us tick. To develop signature styles for her clients that help them show up and shut it down. Oh my gosh.
Get down.
Girl, I saw one of the videos on your website and you were saying that from a fashion runway, and the way you said it gave me goosebumps all through my body. I was like, who wouldn't want to work with you? Welcome to the Badass series, girl. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so incredibly grateful to be here. I'm so thankful. I'm doing awesome. I am so excited about this series. I'm just jealous because I wish that I would have thought of it myself. But I'm grateful to be a part of it. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. And you've been on my list for a while. I will totally admit that. And I know in the last few months, you moved from Pennsylvania to Texas. You're a Texas girl now, huh?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I am Houstonian, I guess is what my new phrase is. I don't know. I'm still adjusting. It has only been about 6-7 months. So yeah, I am like doing an entirely new thing. And I was in like just present this morning realizing and showing myself some grace about how difficult it is to move somewhere where you know just about everything and everyone to a place where you know nothing. And I am so uncomfortable and I have to build all these new relationships from friends to doctors to whatever, moms at school, like the whole thing. And Edna, I am growing. growing. And it's so uncomfortable, but it's so awesome because I know that, you know, when we come on the other side of things like this, it just makes us better. So yeah.
Yes. And definitely in a year like this past year to be doing a move across the country like
in
that.
a pandemic. How are you going to move in a pandemic?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yes. Right. And then you guys get snow a couple weeks ago and power outages
Yes.
and craziness. So you have weather going around you.
Yes.
But the whole time you look so cute, Toi. Oh my gosh, girl. We were talking before. I literally had a camo sweater on before and I took it off because it was too busy with my background. And I turn on the Zoom and there she is. And I'm like, yeah. All right, I'm in the same ballpark. This is good. Though I have never been able to pull off a red lip like that. Oh my, I don't know that I've tried.
Everyone can. It's about confidence.
Well, for everybody, Toi and I knew each other through QVC. And what I think is so funny, Toi, is you were there. When did you start at QVC?
Oh gosh, 2001.
Okay, so I started in 1999. So I thought you were there before. So, but we met along the way in the studio, and Toi was a fashion stylist when I met her, and we would talk backstage, and I'd see you dressing the models, and I just always saw this. I always saw, and I'm so sure I'm not alone, but I always saw this strength but somebody who wasn't out there out loud, right? Like you were dressing the models, you always looked cute, but there was always this like power, this confidence that you just knew what you were doing. You knew how they were going to dress. And I mean, that's your job, but there was also that something, that it factor behind that I think we all knew. You knew what the hell you were doing, like way more than just whatever the job description said. And yet we didn't talk all that much. And then we were both on the air. I have a couple pictures I'll post here, and taking together, but we never really worked together where I got to know you. And then I think I knew more of you when you left QVC, because you're everywhere. You're on Facebook, you got a book, you're doing talks, you're an entrepreneur. I mean, it's just fantastic what you have created. And what I love is the story of how you got to QVC first before you were a fashion stylist. How did you get to QVC to begin with? Like, were you always looking to do fashion?
Oh my gosh. So fashion for me is one of those things that I have done forever. And people say that, meaning that, oh, I've done it for a few years. Like literally, I've never done anything else. And so from first job to, current day, I've always worked in some phase of fashion. So I started in retail, like most people, had that first job when I was like 14, 15, 16, working in retail. All the way up until college, when I went to school for fashion merchandising. My degree actually says specialized business, but it's a fashion marketing degree. And so I just really kind of worked my way through retail, work full-time, went to school full-time as I was obtaining this degree. So by the time I was in my 20s, I was completely burned out of retail. I really wanted to get into QVC. It was very hard. And it took me 2 years of getting in, and I was so burned out. I was working at Bloomingdale's at the time. I did their executive training program. I was part of the team that was running a $15 million business for Bloomingdale's in New York. And prior to that, I had worked at amazing companies like Ralph Lauren, White House Black Market, Crabtree and Evelyn, just Aldo shoes. Like I had just kind of worked my way, always in a leadership role. And I was completely burned out. And so I was just really, really had enough. And I went to the loading dock at Bloomingdale's one day, the Bloomingdale's in King of Prussia. And I was so frustrated. This is during the time of fax machine. The QVC was not calling me back. And I had just had this really could have been intimidating meeting with my vice president, Bloomingdale's at the time. And she had stood up on her desk, Edna, and she looked me in the face and she said to me, "You know what I don't like about you? That damn smirk on your face. You think that you're going to be a buyer? Never, not on my watch." And I remember sitting there and I have kind of like a nervous chuckle. And I was like, okay, so I left. I go downstairs back to my floor. At this point, I had been promoted from the New York store to the King of Prussia store. And I was running the kids department, intimate apparel, kids and intimate apparel department, which was like a huge department. I had 2 of them at once. And, but I was the manager at this point. And so I was, I was so frustrated. I went to the back dock, I pulled my resume out, and I stood at that fax machine and I was fax, like 15 times to QVC. I'm like, you will call me back. I am qualified, for this position. And I was applying for an entry level position in the buying office. So anyway, I ended up getting a call. I get the job. And my first day in the first meeting in this job at QVC as a merch trainee, which in the world is like an assistant buyer. And I was so excited because I accomplished the goal. So we're sitting there and the buyer is talking about, I'm in the fine jewelry department if I hadn't mentioned that. And we're looking at this enamel bracelet. And so you have to kind of know and understand the culture at QVC. I'm a merch trainee. It's my first meeting with my boss and a vendor. I'm not supposed to talk. I'm supposed to listen. I'm there to learn. And so I say to my buyer, or to the vendor, this would be a beautiful enamel bracelet, enamel necklace. And she looks at me and she doesn't say anything. And I don't know if it's a dirty look, shut up, or that's a great idea. So she looks at the vendor and she says, "Can you make this into a necklace?" And then I explain my ideas. He makes it into a necklace. It goes on air and it completely sells out.
Oh my gosh,
And it's
girl.
so kind of like park that idea, right? And so I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that. So it just confirmed that like I did go to school for merchandising. I had spent my career in merchandising up until that point. I came into QVC with like 7 years of management experience, about 10 years of retail experience. So that was what I was bringing to the table. But I also had to take a $30,000 pay cut, and now I'm in an entry-level position. And so
Okay, let me interrupt you for a second
yeah,
on that, because
yeah,
that's huge for women entrepreneurs who want to make a shift towards something better.
yes.
What did it take for you? Well, you kind of explained it on the docks of Bloomingdale's, like you were pretty badass with hitting the fax machine. But was the pain enough that you were like, I'll just do anything to get out of here? Or what did you really want to get into QVC? What was that? Give me the mental space of
I
that.
think that I have a drive in me that was kind of curated since I was little, that other people don't get to decide. You know, you will not control my narrative. You don't get to tell me who I get to be. I get to control the narrative of my life. And so I think that now that's really has become my life's work, is helping women to understand their power and how exceptional they truly are, and that we get to control the narrative. It really is not up to somebody else. You don't get to tell me that I have to be down, that I have to doubt myself, that I'm not enough. That's not your choice. It's just not. And so I'm the kind of person that when you tell me that, you know, I can't, then it's I have to prove to you that I can. So she just lit a fire. That's all you're doing. You're literally like, I just walk around kind of covered in gasoline. And whenever time somebody throws one of those jabs at me, I become inflamed, right? And I'm just like, and not like in an anger kind of way, but in the like, it's on kind of way. And so she said I couldn't, and that I would never. And I was like, really? Watch me. So
Ooh.
right, like, okay, so there it is. So I go and I get in, I get it, I get the job, I'm doing it. And now I'm faced with, guess what? Have you ever had a goal that you really was like, you really wanted it? You get in the race and you're actually not that great at running that race. Like I was really bad at that job. You know, I was good at merchandising, and because right, that's what I've been doing. And I know I can put something together that's going to sell, but the day-to-day sitting there crunching numbers, I was really bad at it.
You're
So
talking about QVC?
QV, yeah, right.
Position.
Sorry, I was
Okay.
back up from the story. So, you know, going back to that story, I was really bad at that job. My job was to sit there, and I think that some people who aren't aware of what that job entails thinks that it's glamorous and like you're in the fashion industry. Well, you're in the merchandising portion of it, and it's sitting there. You have to be really good at math, really good at numbers. I'm good at none of those things, and so I had a choice to make because I was put on 60-day notice. And it like, you're not improving, you're really bad at these spreadsheets, you're missing things, you're missing details. You have 60 days to find a job. And I didn't know what I was going to do because I had really, again, spent 2 years trying to get into my dream company. And now I feel like a failure because I'm really bad at it. And what am I going to do? So I had expressed to a coworker that I really wanted to be a stylist, and that I still need to find a job, but I'm going to go back to school for fashion design. So I went to the head designer at the time. Her name is Marla. And I talked to her about like asking her questions about fashion design. And she said, you're going to go back to school for fashion design? I was like, yeah. She's like, well, do you know how to sew? No. Do you know how to sketch? No. She was like, and you're going to do what now? I was like, I'm going to learn, you know, I'm going to learn. And so I decided to go back to school for fashion design. My coworker that I was talking to about my dreams came over to me. And now at this point, I was on 60-day notice, but I was at the last 30 days of the 60-day.
Okay.
And I had not found a job, and I was not improving in my current job. So literally I was about to get fired. And so I was like, okay. So she came up to me and she said, hey, there's a stylist position open in the image department. I'm like, we have an image department? Absolutely. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta get this job in the image department, you know? So I applied for the job, you know, made sure I connected with the right people, ended up getting the job, but I didn't get it part-time. I mean, full-time. I got it freelance. I was a freelance stylist now, but I had a job, right? And so I went back to school full-time for fashion design, and I freelanced in the image department part-time until I finished my degree. And then once I finished my degree, I was promoted to full-time.
Wow.
That's how I started in the image department at QVC. And that was where I remained for the rest of the 14 years that I was at QVC. Out of the 16 years that I was there, I spent 14 of that time in the image department.
Oh my goodness, girl.
It was a
What
perfect
a
fit for me.
story. You were a badass like early, like you were born with the badass gene. There was like, you're fearless. You were just like, I'm going to make it happen.
Well, I mean, I think that I don't know if I was fearless, you know, I just think that I learned to do it scared. You know, I think that I don't think that none of us are truly like fearless, right? Especially if you're an entrepreneur. Every day you're just jumping off a bridge. There's no parachute. There is no safety net. I don't have any wings. It's like me and Jesus. It's ride or die. Every day I'm just jumping off a bridge. So I just bring the fear along with me. Like I'm doing it scared, you know, like you just jump and the whole time you're falling and you're like, okay, you know, but then you land and you're like, nailed it.
Got it. There's another one. Check. Right. Oh my gosh, girl. That is fantastic. And one of the qualities I see in you is that confidence. It's like raging inside of you that you so believe in you. And when you're in alignment, and I talk a lot about alignment,
yes,
and being true to who you are and what you want to do with your life, it makes you hungry. You're passionate about it. And you just figure out, oh, doors closed, find the next one. Oh, doors closed, find the next one, go build a new door, right? Like that confidence is so in you that you trust that. And you say, it's just me and Jesus. I know your faith is super strong.
Yeah, I don't know if it's confidence because, you know, I had some things going on this week where, again, I was put into a very uncomfortable situation and my confidence was completely shattered. You know, even at this level, I was experiencing I could see myself leaning towards self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, like all of those things. And so I really honestly think that, and I have so many women reaching out to me talking about, where do you get your confidence? I don't know, y'all. I gotta be honest. I think that confidence is a bunch of BS because it's fleeting. You know, it's not a staple. None of us are confident all the time. Really, like new levels, new devils, right? And if you have a growth mindset and as you're running towards that thing that you really want, it's going to be uncomfortable. And we're only confident when we're comfortable. And so I think that we have to have a paradigm shift in a new mindset trick around confidence. I think that you have to understand that you know, when you're doing something that you're used to doing, it's very comfortable and it's easy to be confident when you're comfortable. But as you're running towards something new, it's okay to not be confident. What we have to tell ourselves, Edna, is that, like I said to you, I'm growing. This is good for me. This is going to make me stronger. One of the things I say to myself is that easy and comfort doesn't produce greatness. Easy and comfort does not produce greatness. You know, so you got to be in that fight, right? Hence the camo, like you got to be in that fight. It's a war out there against yourself, against your mindset every day. So I just call it Godfidence. Like I have a ton of confidence. I have zero confidence, you know, because I don't, because even as I moved into the image department, even that brought its own set of trickery and craziness and stress and and all of the things which, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about that happened to me while I was in the right place at the right time, you know, and it just made me even more insecure, but I had to just keep growing. And I think that what we have to understand is that it's not about the mountaintop because we get so fixed on the mountaintop, but it's about your willingness to climb every day. It's your willingness to get the crap kicked out of you every day and just wipe the blood from your nose and get up and do it again. Thank you very much, sir. May I have another?
Yeah, right.
You have to keep going. You have to keep going.
And if you keep going, you get enough evidence behind you. that you're like, I did it before, I can do it again.
Yes.
You can, that fuels, if you have the lack of confidence, more confidence, but you don't get that if you don't keep trying. You're right.
Yeah.
And in this last year, there's been a lot for me personally where I was always so goal oriented. That's who I was. The top of the mountain was what I saw. It
Yeah.
didn't matter the journey. And I have shifted that. At the end of last year, I really got into what alignment means, and that
Yes.
the journey is the most beautiful thing, because that's where you see the growth. That's where you see the opportunity. That's where the joy can be. And
Yeah.
so I'm totally with you on that. And I have shifted my thinking on all of that after 40 some years to finally get my act together about the journey.
Though. Yeah. And we have to
Yeah.
have some grace on that, because that's what we're taught to do.
Yes.
We're taught to chase, right?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. But the gold, the diamonds, the nuggets, the goodness is really in the climb. It's really in the journey.
Yeah. That's so great. So you kind of touched on this a little bit. Tell me a little bit of the struggle. Like, give me a story about where I guess you've kind of told us that the ladies looked at you in the face, your old boss. But even as you kept climbing, right? New level, new devils, you said. I love that. Where have some of the struggles been along the way? As you maybe started your own business, because I know that was a risk for you to leave your day job to start your own brand.
So I'm going to go back a little bit, because I had this huge fashion, like merchandising background, right? And so now I'm actually in the fashion industry in the sense, even though it's with QVC, but I'm styling, and that's a whole just like creative role. But my strength, right? When you do Myers, we all have done maybe Myers-Briggs. And my number one strength is I'm very strategic. I'm also a learner. And then the third one is positivity. So it's exactly what you said, is that I had to devise a plan always, right? And then I always like to, I'm such a life learner that it's disgusting. And so, and so I'm devising this plan. I'm always learning in the process. And then one of my superpowers is that I have to find things to feed my positivity, because that's what's going to push me forward. And so that's really the formula of what I was doing. But in the midst of this, we were doing IVF. We tried to get pregnant. We couldn't. So we decided to do IVF. Now, all this crazy stuff is going on at work, like not to the point where I'm leaving yet. This was about 9 years. No. How old is my son? He's 11. And so this was about 3 years, 5 years, sorry, after I decided to leave. But prior to all of that, when I was just backstage, the stylist, and realizing that there was no promotion, there was nowhere for me to go. In the midst of this, my husband used to be on the road with like Limp Bizkit, Christina Aguilera, Slipknot. He was a tour manager for Tony Hawk. Like, he was a tour manager.
What?
For Eagles.
Boy, yeah. I did not know this.
I know. I couldn't tell you all the gems in the pre-call.
Oh my God.
So,
that's great. I'm glad you saved it. That's fantastic. Okay.
And so, so he was, the tour manager for the, or head of security for the Eagles, Van Halen, and all of these things. And so, and that enabled me to work part-time and go to school full-time. And so that I was kind of getting my feet wet in QVC. So in the midst of all of just this portion of my career, before I became like the style director working with the host, I just want to go back for a little bit. And so before all that, we tried IVF, right? And then I was like, you need to come home, because he was gone for 14 weeks at a time. And I was very lonely, and I wanted to start a business. And so I was graduating with my design business, and I launched a design business where I was doing couture level evening gowns and bridal gowns. And the name of the business was called Her Majesty the Queen. And so and it was inspired by a trip I had taken to London, where everything everywhere was like Her Majesty the Queen. And as an American woman, I'm like, we can wear our crowns, and we can be our own set of majesty, right? And now it's like prior to the day of, yes, queen, right? Everything, hey queen, but it was
right.
all of that, right? Yeah. I might have started that trend, just kidding. Anyway, I launched this, I launched my first business as a side hustle while I was still styling full-time at QVC. We decided that we wanted to try IVF. And 6 months in, I'm pregnant. I'm with my son, Miles, and I'm happy and I'm rubbing my belly. And my life is just, it couldn't be any more fabulous because I've been trying for so long to get pregnant. And so one night I went to bed and I woke up in the middle of the night. Everything was completely orange. I'm vomiting to the point where I pass out. And so my husband, John, of course, is completely worried. He calls 911. We rush to the hospital. Once we arrive, they check me out. They let us know that Miles had passed away and that my uterus erupted. And so now I need to go into emergency surgery because I have a crazy amount of internal bleeding. And, as you can imagine, that was very, very, very difficult for us. 8 days in the hospital, 2 blood transfusions, an infection in my uterus, pneumonia, and I almost died. And we've lost our son. And now my poor husband is faced with almost losing his wife. So I survived, right? I'm here to tell the story. But when I get back to work, all of the models that we were all pregnant together, they had their baby and I didn't have mine. And so, and so then I had to process that plus, I had to plan his funeral. And then eventually I had to pick up and go back to work. And I knew that I wanted.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
I don't think I had a choice. It's interesting that you said that to me because, you called like the HR people and the woman kept saying to me, it's only been 8 weeks. Are you sure you want to go back to work? You have more weeks, but it was harder for me at home because, so they had kept me when I was in the hospital, they had kept me on the maternity floor for insurance purposes. So every night, Edna, when I would fall into the REM part of sleep, I would hear all the babies crying. I would hear women in active labor. And I'm on this floor and I'm the only one on that floor that doesn't have a baby. And so when I got home every night, when I would fall into my REM sleep, I would hear a baby crying. Now, mind you, this was a week before my baby shower. So the room was ready. Like I had everything, like the crib was like on its way, and so I had, or at least I had, I was probably going to get it at my shower, which was now canceled. And so, I had to, it was so much harder for me to get home, and I have not talked about this part of it, like when I get home ever on a podcast, but, I just kind of want to set the stage, like, so you get home, there's no baby. Your body is trying to adjust to the fact that it's like we had a baby, right? And now my milk is coming in and my mucus plug has popped out and I don't have a baby. And so you're just trying to process all of these really hard things. I needed to get back to work. I needed to be busy because what was I home for? Like I was healing. So once I could walk and I could do stairs and all the things that happen when you have like a C-section, that was kind of what I had, but except for she had to, up against the clock, give me a blood transfusion and sew my uterus back together. I was okay physically, and I needed to get busy. So that was really how, like, I had to keep going. I didn't know any other way. Like when you're at bottom, yes, the only way out is up. The only way out is through. And so I had to, that was the first time that I was like, really, really felt completely at bottom. And it was one of the hardest moments of my life, but I had to keep going. And so once I finally got back to work, then the lesson was, how do you create a narrative that doesn't tell the story that you're this sad, broken girl, right? Because the story I was telling myself is that, I'm less of a woman because I can't have children. And my uterus is broken. My baby is dead. Why would they make me hold him? I had to hold a dead baby. Like it was awful. The things in the story that I told myself. And I had to kind of maneuver all the way through that to the point where I'm like, okay, I got to go back to work because what I'm saying is not true. It's awful, whatever. So I get back to work. And now when people would see me, they're hugging me. I'll never forget Laura Geller. The first time I saw her, for those of you who don't know, she's like this massive, mega makeup badass of an entrepreneur. And she sees
Love
me,
her.
right? She's the heart of an angel.
Oh my God.
I'll never forget the way that she embraced me, and we just sobbed in the hallway. And she just kept saying, baby, I'm so sorry. And I was like, yeah, me too. That's all I could say was me too. So, but if I had to search for something beautiful in it outside of the happy ending to the story, which was that was where I learned to use color to create the narrative, because I didn't want to be seen as this sad, broken girl who could no longer have kids. Meanwhile, back on the ranch, my sister-in-law, you have to be of a certain age to get that joke. Meanwhile, back on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry.
No, there's always a moment in these interviews where I get touched. It's okay.
Yeah, it was tough. So thank you for that. I appreciate you seeing me through my story.
Yes.
So meanwhile, back on the ranch, my sister-in-law, at age 53, stepped up and volunteered to be my surrogate. And
because you were going to have a baby. Dang it, right? You're figuring this out too, just like you were figuring out the next job, the next I want a family.
I really wasn't like about this, right? Because I really didn't see a way. I was like, we couldn't afford a surrogate. When we were like looking at the numbers at that time, it's double the price now. But then it was $200,000 and $300,000 and $400,000. Plus you had to pay the medical bills. Plus you had to take care of all of her clothing. Plus you had to, the contract was super extensive. And we were like, listen, I was making like $30,000 a year. Like there was no way that we could do this. And so it just wasn't an option. And so unless somebody volunteered, and we had a couple people that stepped forward, but their heart wasn't in it for the right reasons. And so I said, no, you're trying to be the hero. I don't need to be saved. I need a baby, And so I had a female doctor. She's like, I'm leaving everything in. I'm believing you're going to get a surrogate. So go forth, And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get a surrogate. And my sister-in-law was like, I'll do it. And I was like, you are old. There is no way that you. So my doctor who did my IVF, Dr. Michael Glassner, shout out to him. He called me to check on me, and he was a mess. We were all a mess. It was so awful. And I was like, so get this, Dr. Glassner, my sister-in-law, at 53 wants to be my surrogate. And he was like, oh, well, that's not a bad idea. Number one, she'd be free. And number two, your uterus doesn't age like the rest of you. So if you decide that you want to do this, bring her in. I'll check her out. And, I'm not going to charge you for this. I'm not going to charge you for it.
Wow.
Look at me. So we were like, what? Okay, because, it's just like I was part of that 1% that this would happen to, right? And so, or a very small percent that this would happen to. So long story short, she did it. That was 11 years ago. I have the most gorgeous, beautiful son, Tucker, in the entire world.
Gorgeous. Oh my God, he's so cute.
So cute. And he is like, makes me belly laugh, like full belly laugh every day to the point where my cheeks hurt. We are like, she just gave birth to the male version of me. And we just, awesome. Oh my gosh. To the point where the other day I was talking to my sister-in-law, Karen, who gave birth to him. When I answered the phone, she thought that I was Tucker. And so right? I just said the same thing, we just share a vocabulary, the same person. And so it's crazy. And so he's this creative, he loves fashion, he loves music, he loves art, he wants to be an actor, yeah.
Let me talk about your business and some of the ins and outs, because truly when I heard the book, well-dressed brand, and how using your wardrobe to be part of your business strategy, like that was such a foreign concept to me. And I'm always, doing lives and Zooms and all that too. I never considered my clothing other than what I wanted to wear. Like, and yes, there was if it's more serious, you dress a little bit this way. If it's more casual, you dress that way.
Yeah.
Like, tell us can you tell, not everybody can afford you. You are really working for like high-end, powerful people, and that's great, but you are super knowledgeable for people like me and the next woman next to us. Like, can you give us a tip or trick or two about how to think about wardrobe for your brand?
Yeah, I think that, first for the Well-Dressed brand, it's the company. Like, we are really about alignment. And so you and I are like married on that end, right? And so it really is about your personality, your image, your core values, all of these things, bringing it, your vision, right? Where you want to go, what you really believe, all of it together, speaking to your clients, to your dream, to your goals, right? We talk about being dressed the way that you want to be addressed, right? And so that really is what the Well-Dressed brand is about. And drawing your products and your services in there. It's about excellence. It's about you moving forward in alignment with everything that really is the ingredient of who you truly are. So we're taking who you are and we're putting it out into the world in the best possible way. And so that's what the secrets of the Well-Dressed brand, the book, is about, because when you're talking about, I know there's some people who can't afford me, but that's why you have the book, because I don't leave one stone unturned. I tell you every single thing that I've ever learned about using your wardrobe as a business strategy. So we talk about why your brand is important, and where that came from. So for those of you who don't know personal branding, that's what it is, right? It's about you being the chief marketing officer of yourself and pushing that forward. Okay. So what has to happen, to answer your question, is that there has to be a little bit of a paradigm shift. And what I realized is that when I started really posting seriously on Instagram, because I'm a fashion stylist by trade and a marketer, people were expecting to see like outfits of the day. And I was like, I don't do fluffy fashion. It is so much deeper than that. So what I had to do in writing the book is do all this research to support just kind of my theory, right? And so what I found was all of these things. So we have to think about it differently. What happens when we dress a little bit better than our peers or our coworkers is that you are 25% more more productive, more creative. You're sending all of these messages to your brain. So the old way is that it's about confidence. That's not all the way true. It's about, you're going to feel good. Well, that's a little bit true, but it's so much deeper than that psychologically. So what happens is that there's a new study that I'm talking about in my new book that I'm writing that came out from Harvard in December 2019 that talked about when you dress well, it really, really affects kind of like not only your cognitive skills, but when you dress well, it affects your long-term goals. It affects how you're preparing for your long-term goals. And when you dress down, more casual, think about it when we clean the house, right? That's when we want to wear our sweats and stuff, because it's about you getting it done in that moment. So that kind of produces like a get it done now attitude, right? And so that's kind of the premise of one of the paradigm shifts that you have to have when you get dressed. So the first thing that I ask my customers, and that you can ask yourself, is what do you want to say? When that Zoom camera hits you, or you're hitting the stage for the first time, or you're walking into that pitch meeting or that meeting, what do you want people to think and feel about you? Like, what do you want it to be? And so when you go onto my website for the first time, I was very conscious about what do I want people to say, see, think, and feel, right, about me? Boom, up pops the picture in the red dress. My photographer shot me down low, like I'm 6 feet tall. I'm only 5'3" at night. And so everyone's like, I thought you were so much taller in person, but that was part of the narrative that I'm teaching women, especially, but men too, to create that, again, you don't get to decide. I get to control the narrative. And my narrative for me and for you is that you are powerful. You are more than enough. You are significant. And so I started with my own brand and creating that narrative. And now I help other people do that too. So it's just that whole paradigm shift of like, what do you want to say into the world? Again, what you broadcast is what's going to get received, right? You talked about, I was doing that. I didn't even realize I was doing that. Even when I was a backstage stylist at QVC, I didn't realize that I was doing that, but you were picking up what I was putting down, and I had no idea. But again, that was where I was laying the groundwork for the well-dressed brand. So it's just really about looking at your wardrobe in a very, very different way and being so strategic about it. It's not about just outfits and just buying anything off the rack. Everything, every detail has a purpose.
I love that.
When you line it up, you really become unstoppable, because your brand is going to enter the door before you even open your mouth.
Yes.
Before you even open your mouth, your brand has already arrived. In my book, I interviewed two of my friends who are celebrity stylists in New York, and they also have an interior design business, Jesse and Joe. And they talk about that. They tell the story in the book about this client that was a lawyer that they were working with. And she was sitting in the conference room before everyone arrived. And people started asking her to get coffee. And she's a partner in the law firm.
Wow.
Because she was not dressed the way that she needed or deserved to be addressed. So they started working with her, changed things around, making her more powerful, having her stand in her power. And I will tell you what, to this day, no one is mistaking her for the person that gets coffee.
Wow. And you know what? I will tell you this. I have your website up behind, and I wish you could see what I see. I should take a picture of it, because there you are in your red dress standing right there. And I'm totally taking that picture. Well, you know what, Toi? I think here's what I really love. Right now I'm ready to kind of level up my business and where I'm going, because I'm getting more clarity about where I'm going. Not 100%, but moving in the directions that I want to. And the one thing that I look at is there's so many, when you're an entrepreneur, there are so many things you have to in the beginning do on your own. And then you start leveraging the right pieces and start paying out of pocket for the support that you need to help you get to the next level, right? And when I look at experts, do I need this branding coach? Do I need this entrepreneurial whatever? Do I need, my wardrobe? Do I need the next piece? It's like you do it all in order. It doesn't all have to be done at the same time. But the one thing that I love about you is that you would be the person that I go to because of who you are inside and outside. And what you teach is about getting the inside of who you know yourself to be expressed on the outside. And I'm like, you are the epitome of that. I want to work with you. Like, if you can do that for yourself and do it for the next and the next, it's like, because I think at the end of the day, one of the things for women and men is that when we have something that we're so passionate about, that we want to start a business about, it is so our identity. We are in that. It's not like this thing that's outside of us. It's about who we are. And I just love, like, even in this conversation, and even more than the last time we spoke and before that, you fire me up. Like, you get me excited about being able to show the world who Edna Valentino is, because I start with what I always said, this is your storefront. And even though I'm not a fashion stylist, my store, especially as a coach, is a service, right? I don't have brick and mortar, but when you see me, you have some message. But now you get to help us express the message appropriately. Gosh, I can't wait to work with you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that,
did I say it right? Did I miss anything?
It was perfect. And I think that so many people, they get so confused, right, about titles and labels. And so that's when they don't get it, when they said, like, well, you're a stylist, right? And I'm just like, but when you really, really take a minute, take a pause and examine the product, I'm so much more than that. And I don't really believe in putting out something that I haven't tried and tested myself, because, I just don't want to, I want to be genuine. I would never tell you something that I haven't tried or tested for myself. I'm too afraid of looking like an idiot. So, I will say, I don't know, but I've tested this and I've tried it over the 16 years that I spent at, the largest home or the number one home shopping network. I've done it for personalities. I've done it for type A, hard to hit personalities. So,
Right.
Some days this feels like a vacation, but that's why I kind of specialize in those people, because I know how to speak that language of founders and CEOs and television personalities. But I do create things, and I'm still creating some things that are very, very affordable, like my book. And I'm just, I'm going to be launching a Spotify, that's not what it's called, a Shopify shop in the next couple of weeks that really help people to kind of get introduced to the psychology of color and just kind of having some very positive things to put out into the world every day that kind of gets them closer to those goals. But thank you for seeing and understanding what I do. Yesterday, somebody said to me, you are the missing piece that I've been looking for. And he's an architect in LA. And he was just like, I hired a fashion stylist last year, and I've taken the Fascination Advantage test. The fact that you are a coach and a stylist and you are aligning these things for me, I can't wait to work with you. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, me either, sir. That is so great, you guys. I could talk to you all day long. We might have to do another part 2 after the next book. We'll do that again, Toi,
Yes.
because this has been so fun. You can find Toi on Instagram, Twitter, Well Dressed TV, on Facebook, or toysweeney.com for more. You guys, she even has some great quotes on there. She's got a great video going on. She's got the picture of her in the red dress. You have to go to Toi, Toi, Sweeney, SWEENEY.com. Girl, I just want to give you a big hug and a kiss. Thank you so much, you badass, for being on today. And thank you for validating that camo's awesome, even though I wasn't wearing it. Thank God I wasn't. But and I'm going to try a red lip, and maybe I'll text you a picture. Okay.
You better try a red lip.
You can find Toi's book, Secrets of a Well-Dressed Brand, on iTunes and follow her on social media. Stay tuned for the next episode in the Badass series.